Hey, I'm Baby Queen.
Hi, I'm Katie Beza.
Hey, this is Ram McMullen.
Hi guys, Lara here.
Hey, I'm Jim from Koala.
Hi, I'm Astrides.
And you are listening to Léim Thart.
And you're listening to Léim Thart.
And you're listening to Léim Thart.
It's out now.
I really hope you enjoy it.
So enjoy.
Hello, Rory here, and welcome to Léim Thart. This is the podcast where you will get everything music based, and it is a big one today because it's the release of Brat 2.0, the remix album officially titled Brat, and it's completely different but also still Brat. It is finally here after months of teasing and speculation. We've been handed 16 remixes from Charli XCX's seminal album Brat. I haven't done a review on Léim Thart in quite a while, and for some reason I just had this idea very last minute to do one because it's not normally the thing I do. Normally I'm interviewing musicians with the occasional review, and to be honest, I took the summer off to be a bit of a brat and enjoy it, and really lean into the whole Brat summer trend that's dominated our social media feeds. So this was definitely a last minute idea, and I've thrown all caution towards my recording environment out the window. So if the sound is a bit less good than usual, blame it on that, my little bit of poor planning. But if you enjoy this, and if you want to keep up with everything that Léim Thart has to offer, I'd really appreciate if you follow/subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to this on, and a nice review, maybe a little 5 stars if you like it. But we're going to get into it now. Brat has had staggering success for Charli this summer. Anything lime green is now called Brat. Last year we had Barbie Summer, and this year we had Brat Summer. It is a rave album, it's a club album, and it's very intense sonically, but that's classic Charli. She has always made very aggressive electronic pop, especially kind of in the last, I want to say 8-ish years. Pretty much a lot of the releases since probably her biggest album to this point, Sucker. She's really leaned into left of center pop. But to go with this intense sound, what is very new on this is that it's intensely vulnerable in the lyrics. She has adopted a very conversational lyrical style, which we haven't really seen from her before. She said herself that it had to sound like things she would text friends or say on a FaceTime call. And this approach has actually worked tremendously for her. And I'm all for it. And for Charli to finally be getting her flowers in real time. And anyone who's been a fan of hers for a long time will understand what I mean by that, because she's been releasing very kind of ahead of its time music for quite a while, and it kind of hits a bit of a following when it's released, but it seems to like get appreciated a few years later down the line. And as much as that's nice to get, there's always been this feeling of, you know, we wish that she was having this success in the moment when it's released, and that has finally happened with Brat. So on the release of this remix album, the original Brat was released in early June. We've had a lot of time to think about this campaign, as I've been doing, and a lot of the things that I thought of, she ended up explaining on her Apple Music interview with Zane Lowe, which dropped earlier this week. And that's really worth a listen and worth your time after you listen to this review, of course. So some of the things that she used for this campaign is exclusivity, creating that hype of wanting to be in on it. So one of the ways she did that was creating a private Instagram account called 360 Brat. And she launched that quite slyly a little bit over a year ago, maybe about a year and a half ago at this point. And she would post a lot of things on it that sometimes didn't make sense, but now make sense all this time later. She would also drop snippets of things, she would tease things, she would announce things, all before she would publicly say them. She also did a Boiler Room set back in February, which is the kind of legendary dance club brand / platform. And for a club that, if I'm not wrong, feel free to fact check me, could accommodate about 1,000-ish people, over 25,000 people registered for tickets, which Boiler Room say is the most in their history. So she's really capitalized on the whole idea of exclusivity. She also did a bit of guerrilla marketing and kind of surprised people. She had a big wall, which got called the Brat wall, but it was basically just like a billboard out of home space in New York where it was painted with the album cover, the now famous, initially infamous, but now famous album cover, which I will get into in a minute. But she put a phone across the street and just went on TikTok Live. And the TikTok Live would go on for hours and people would join because they would just see this shot of a wall and people painting it. But eventually people copped where the wall was. And then she started going on TikTok Live by surprise, no announce, no warning ahead of time. And just you'd watch the people painting a new message on, which is how she announced the deluxe version and how she announced the Lorde remix. So the Brat wall ended up being a really good marketing tool, and she appeared at it once. Again, kind of by surprise, she announced it very close to when she was doing it, and a crowd went as soon as they could. They dropped everything, and she did a little performance on a car, and that was great. She also did like a pop-up DJ set in Barcelona when she was playing Primavera. She did a pop-up DJ set just last night to play the album in New York at an outdoor art gallery, which looked very cool. And then she changed all of her prior album covers to fit the Brat style. So initially, people were not happy with the lime green and the word Brat written in Arial narrow and very pixelated, very grainy. But she had a lot to say about it. She was saying, I kind of want to challenge the norm that pop girls are meant to be like on their cover, a photograph of them. But she has also said it was to save money. But she has now changed all of the album covers for all her prior albums on streaming platforms to fit this theme, which I think is great. Along with this success, she is on a currently 22 arena dates in the US and Canada, co-headlining with Troye Sivan, which, according to Troye, on the 14th of September, was 95% sold overall. And that number, it's been a month since then, so that number has just risen. She also has 4 arena dates in the UK this winter, which are all sold out. And I'm very excited to go see her in Birmingham in November. All of this success was unfathomable, even on her last album, Crash, which, in my eyes, brought her to kind of her peak level in terms of her status amongst not only the general public, but the industry too. Because that album, she decided she was going to do everything that a record label would traditionally want someone in the pop category to do, and she called it her sellout album. But she kind of made a bit out of it, and she committed to the bit, and it brought her on her biggest tour ever, her first #1 album, a bunch of other accolades. But I didn't think it'd ever get bigger than that. And boy, was I wrong. Even when she released lead single Von Dutch in February, I was like, this will be good. But I didn't see her influencing the incoming US presidential election. That's just incredible. So now at this point, it's her most streamed album based on Spotify data. That title was held by Sucker up to now, her 2015 album, which has hits like Boom Clap, Break the Rules, and Doing It. As of the 16th of September, which is when I did all this number crunching, using only the standard edition tracks for both albums, Sucker has 745 million total streams. Brat has 940 million. Then using averages, I'm going to use 2 types of averages here. Sucker had a mean 53 million streams and Brat had 63 million. And then using the median, Sucker had 5 million streams and Brat had 46 million streams. So that is just incredible. She has always spoken about a remix album during this campaign, and she even teased what is now the 365 featuring Shy Girl remix before anyone had even heard a snippet of lead single Von Dutch. So throughout the campaign, she has slowly drip-fed these remixes. There was the Von Dutch with Addison Rae and A.G. Cook remix, 360 with Robin and Young Lean, Girl So Confusing with Lorde, and Guess with Billie Eilish. So this day is absolutely monumental. For those of us who were there in 2017, when she started this practice of having a large number of collaborators on a body of work, with her 2 mixtapes, #1 Angel and Pop 2. And this was when she had kind of withdrawn from being mainstream and was going left of centre and kind of building quite a small but cult fan base. So those 2 mixtapes were pivotal points in her career, especially Pop 2, because not only was it sonically very boundary pushing, but it got a rave reception that Amongst fans, it's now considered her magnum opus. Now, I have a feeling that that might change to Brat over time, but for now I think it's still kind of pop 2, and her song Track 10 from pop 2 has remained a fan favourite, and she still plays it at shows, thank God, because I love that song. But the difference this time when she's releasing a big body of work with a lot of collaborators is her audience size. So in 2017, she was developing a cult following who were very engaged, but it was quite small compared to how she had been when she was promoting the likes of Boom Clap. But as Charli was saying in her Apple Music interview, this cult following was very engaged, but the music didn't really travel much further than that audience. She then did her album Charli in 2019, which followed the same approach of having lots of collaborators on it. And then since then, she's kind of dropped that approach, but she's brought it back now. And this time she has millions of eyes and ears to feed. And she has fed us this year. She fed us a 15-track album, 3 deluxe tracks, and now there are 16 remixes. So that's just amazing. Going into them, some of them stay closer to their original form. Guess with Billie Eilish, 360 with Robin and Young Lean, Apple with The Japanese House, and Girl So Confusing with Lorde would all be examples of that, where there are a few tweaks and there's new verses, but it's not like an overhaul. Others are very different, like I Might Say Something Stupid with the 1975 and John Hopkins, Everything Is Romantic with Caroline Polachek, and Von Dutch with Addison Rae and A.G. Cook. Some of them kind of are in the middle in terms of how different they are, like Talk Talk with Troye Sivan, Sympathy Is a Knife with Ariana Grande, and Back to Back with Tinashe. So going to get into a few highlights. Firstly, I have to talk about Girl So Confusing with Lorde, because this broke the internet, as she mentioned in the song. There were so many think pieces about this song. I kind of wrote one, to be honest. And this song just has a level of honesty that we rarely see between figures in the public eye, because there's a lot of dirty laundry being aired here. Charli is saying to Lorde, at least in the original version of the song, where she didn't name Lorde, but a lot of people guessed it was her. She's saying, I think you might hate me. I think I might hate you. But overall, she has always maintained that it wasn't a diss track, and it's about how complex female relationships are, along with being about the place that feminism is at in 2024. So when this song came out, people were immediately trying to figure out who the lyrics were about. As Charli describes, being uncertain about where she stands with another female singer. There were a few names that came up, but Lorde was the prime suspect, and it was confirmed to be Lorde when the remix was announced, because they only addressed this when the album came out. As far as I know, Charli had tried to talk to Lorde ahead of time, but it didn't seem to work out. But when the song came out, they addressed it, and in a matter of days, the remix was done, and this track came out 2 weeks after Brat. So any Lorde and Charli fan will understand how important this song was, and to see them say, at the end of the day, I truly love you and support you, and they're acknowledging that they have difficulties with each other, but that shouldn't be an entire boundary or kind of a deal breaker for them being friends. And any Lorde fan knows how important this is, because Lorde has only really done one feature since she blew up with Royals, and that's a song called Magnets with Disclosure. She's also famously reclusive and private, and she really does leave the public eye between albums. So to see her pop back up out of the sand with new music in between albums is something that's just very, very, very special. She also adopted the lyrical style of Charli this time, because Lorde likes to be very poetic and use a lot of metaphors and imagery, but she decided to go for that conversational text message type lyrics, but she still gave us a lot of great zinger lines. And that's probably my favourite of the remixes from a personal standpoint, and the message being put out there and the impact it's had. Guess featuring Billie Eilish. Guess was a fan favourite from the 3 deluxe tracks of the album, you know, before the remix ever happened. It's risque, it's fun, it's for the club, And this is Billie's first ever feature. So that's also, you know, something that's huge and just shows Charli's position within the industry. That Billie, who's one of the main players in the pop genre, who doesn't do features, really focuses on putting her message out there, would do a feature for something like this. It's not very different from the original version, but I honestly hate to say it, but because Billie's such a big name, that's kind of one of the big draws of this song. And it became Charli's second ever #1 UK single and her first one as lead artist, which you would have thought she'd had by now, but it was her first. It was also produced by The Dare, who has blown up in popularity this year, and it's become quite a radio hit. It's also the most streamed song of all of the Brat era tracks, with just over 250 million streams on Spotify as of today when the album is released. Sympathy is a Knife with Ariana Grande. This was the headline grabbing track of the remix album because, again, Ariana's at the top of the pop game and she'd naturally be picky about who she works with. So for Charli to grab Ariana Grande and Billie Eilish on the same remix album, not even the main album, the remix one, again, shows the status she has within the industry. So the original song is addressing someone in particular, and it's a very vulnerable song for Charli, addressing a lot of her own insecurities and how she feels like she's not good enough. A lot of people thought this was about Taylor Swift. She's the main name of that conversation, and people have tried to get it out of Charli who it's about, and even there was one journalist in particular who was, she didn't directly say it out loud, that this, asking is this about Taylor? But it was leading to that, and Charli just point blank refused to answer. But this remix is slightly different, and it's kind of a song, it's a remix that couldn't have happened before Brat happened, because it's kind of addressing the difficulties of fame and having a powerful position. And the lyrics are very good at describing this, because Charli has reached a new level of fame since Brat came out. So I don't think that this could have happened before the album dropped. But Ariana Grande has been dealing with this for years. So it's a great conversation between two artists without being all, woe is me, my life is so difficult. It's very honest in saying, yes, it's a big privilege to, be artists like us and to be able to release music, but there are a lot of difficulties with it. And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this will be a contender for #1 in the UK as a single next week. Possibly the US as well. But it's probably going to be the most streamed of the remixes. Everything is Romantic with Caroline Polachek. They have worked together several times before. This one has soaring vocals, which are trademark Caroline on it. And it keeps a lot of the same lyrical and melodic motifs of the original that we all know and love. But instead of the kind of very intense production, which contrasts with very chill moments, this one is very kind of emotional overall. And it's in a slightly different key. And it's kind of sad. It's like the come down of the original version of Everything is Romantic. One line in particular that caught me was, everything's still romantic, right? So this one's going to tug on your heartstrings. 365 featuring Shy Girl. We've been waiting for this one. She has opened every show of the Brat era, at least that I could find, with this track. She's been teasing this for, I want to say, the guts of 9 months? Since late February? Okay, nearly 8 months, I think. Yeah, I'm trying to do the mathematics really quickly. It's even ravier than the original, has a verse from Shy Girl. The only complaint is that it's very short. It's just over 2 minutes. I think a lot of fans will be happy if the very intense ravey drop moments were extended a bit and we got 3 minutes out of it. But overall, very happy to have it. So I with A.G. Cook. It was already a poignant song about Charli's friend Sophie, who was a huge innovator in the pop genre. And she did a lot for a lot of artists in believing in themselves, developing themselves, including Charli, and was a big pioneer in showing Charli the very left of centre side of pop that she eventually leaned into. And if you weren't aware, Sophie tragically passed away about 3 years ago, and a lot of people in the industry really felt it, including Charli. So the original version of So I addresses a lot of Charli's regrets in that friendship and how she kind of wished that she hadn't felt so intimidated by Sophie's talent and had I suppose, made more of an effort to be closer to her. And then this version with A.G. Cook feels like a very natural extension of that, where there's a lot of imagery being thrown at us of all her memories with Sophie, and I just found it really beautiful. So overall, let's wrap it up. This is an incredibly strong follow-up to Brat, and it sits perfectly in not only the Brat universe, but the Charli universe. And after being fed like this, it's bordering on gluttony, I would say, in a great way. And I'd honestly be happy if Charli takes 2 to 3 years off from releasing now, because this campaign has delivered. I'd say, 10 out of 10 for the remix album. Let's hope that she spends next year going on tour and that she eventually comes over here to Ireland, because I think so many people deserve to live within a Brat show. And I'd say part of the reason why she hasn't been doing more shows this year is they have to book them ages in advance, and no one could have predicted the success of Brat, but there's a chance that they're now booking a lot of very big shows for next year. So I'd say go listen to Brat, go listen to track 10 off Pop 2, and go listen to the Brat remix album. Bump with that.